I'm Council Chairman Kwame Brown. I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole Public Oversight hearing. Today is February 8, 2012. The time is now 11:45, and we're located in the Council Chamber of the John A. Wilson Building, located at 1350 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. Today's oversight hearing is on the fiscal year 2011 performance of the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Education, the Public Charter School Board, D.C. Public Schools, and the Office of the State Superintendent of Education. The purpose of today's oversight hearing is to hear testimony from the public about the work of these four education agencies throughout FY 2011 and FY 2012. Thank you for your testimony. Next we'll have Ms. Sandalow. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Brown, staff, members of the Council. As you know, my name is Judith Sandalow. I'm Executive Director of the Children's Law Center and a resident of the district. I'm testifying today on behalf of Children's Law Center, which is the largest nonprofit legal services in the district and the only one focused on comprehensive services to children. Every year we represent more than 1,200 low-income children in the District of Columbia, children who've been abused and neglected, children with special education and health care needs. The majority of our children are in the D.C. Public Schools. I'm going to split my testimony today, first to talk about the D.C. Public Schools, and then also to talk about the Office of the State Superintendent of Education. As with past years, my focus is going to be on the special education program within DCPS and those services. And I want to start by acknowledging the progress that DCPS has made in the past year. They've worked to expand some effective programs. I think the one we're most excited about is the enlargement of the Tools of the Mind program, which is a terrific program, and we're excited that DCPS is focusing on evidence-based programs like this. We appreciate the leadership and the commitment from the D.C. Public Schools focused on special education, although I must say we like Mr. Rosen, we're hoping that things will speed up. There is still a significant lack of appropriate special education programs for D.C. kids. It is clear that the D.C. Public School leadership is focusing on bringing kids back from distant schools in Virginia and Maryland, focusing on bringing back to the district. I think my message today is it doesn't happen magically. You can't just stop sending kids to out-of-state schools. First, you have to build the programmatic capacity inside the D.C. Public Schools. And we hope that any financial savings which are going to be realized get reinvested on behalf of children so that there are good inclusive programs in the local schools. That being said, I know we often come here and complain. I wanted to take a moment to praise some of the work being done in the elementary schools, and in particular Cleveland Elementary School, which we have repeatedly had excellent experiences with, and I think it is worth singling them out for praise as an example of exactly what could be going on in the elementary schools. Unfortunately, of course, it's not a universal experience, and we urge things to move a bit faster. I do want to focus particularly on the divide between what is going on well in a couple of schools and what is a much bigger problem. We repeatedly have the central administration directing kids to programs that don't exist. So, for example, we recently represented a girl named Anna who has a neurological condition which required her to be hospitalized. She came out of the hospital in a wheelchair. She went into the hospital not in a wheelchair. In working through her educational needs, she was directed to she was given 3 schools that were wheelchair accessible, allegedly. But when we as her council followed up, only one of those schools was actually wheelchair accessible. It's an ongoing problem. I have more examples in my testimony of a sort of disconnect between what people wish were true and the reality of what's true on the ground, and pushing DCPS to think more about the reality that they actually have. On that point in particular, I want to highlight that there's a lack of transparency. We have for several years been trying to get D.C. Public Schools to publish a list of what schools provide what kind of special education services so that parents can be empowered to help really be involved in their children's lives. And we have to this date not had yet a comprehensive listing. So parents and their advocates can't help to find the right schools for the children because they're not told where they are. I know I'm going to run out of time, so I simply want to say we're big fans of early stages, but they seem to be a victim of their success. We're seeing delays in testing. We're seeing a diminution of the quality. And most importantly, when they do identify a need, they're not able to find the program. Now let me move over to the Office of the State Superintendent for Education. continues to be a model agency in its openness to community feedback and its well-organized policy-making process. I do want to point out a couple of key concerns. One of which is, as we all know, OSSI has oversight responsibility for local education agencies, and we appreciate the guidance that they have been giving. Unfortunately, we are not seeing LEAs, especially the charter schools, understanding that they are actually subject to OSSI regulations. This is a particular concern for us in the area of school discipline. I have in my testimony a couple of examples. One is of a 4-year-old boy who was repeatedly suspended from school. I cannot imagine a circumstance in which a 4-year-old boy should be suspended from school. It's clear he had an undiagnosed learning issue. OSSI has regulations to address this. They need to be applied at that level. And then I would second what Mr. Rosen said on early intervention. We are eager to see what we hope are going to come out of OSSI as some terrific new regulations. Thank you.
No, thank you for your testimony. Next we'll, Ms. Chung, welcome. Good to see you again.
Chairman Brown. Good to see you and members of the council. Thank you for this opportunity to address the council and staff as it reviews the performance of several departments focused on education. Today, I am going to testify, given my limited time, on the Office of OSSI, the Office of State Superintendent of Education. My name is Haesuk Chung. I am the Executive Director for DC Action for Children and a mother of 2 DCPS students. DC Action for Children is an advocacy organization dedicated to ensuring all children in the district have the full opportunity to achieve their success. We accomplish this through a variety of strategies, but today I want to highlight our Kids Count work, which is providing research and analysis to shape and support effective public policy. So we are funded by the Annie Casey Foundation for this Kids Count project. And before I move on, we will provide some written testimony for things that were mentioned by my colleagues previously, including the success of Tools of the Mind and some challenges and successes with early intervention at early stages. So I hope to forward those to you. As you may know, Kids Count has been in the district for over 15 years, but over the last 2 years, we've managed the project. So we're in the primary focus on building Kids Count as a primary source of data on conditions and outcomes for children and youth and families. We've worked very closely with city agencies, the school system, and service providers to get the most accurate and timely data to make clear and accessible all data that should be transparent for all. The data from Kids Count drives our advocacy work. But by providing these measures of child well-being, we hope that it aims to provide a discussion about ways to ensure that children are really the focus. While we rely on data from OSSI, among other sources, we would like to highlight some of the successes and challenges of obtaining data that's very important for our work. So part of obtaining quality data is ensuring that we have a baseline. One of the challenges for focusing on children under 5, a growing age for DC, as indicated by our soon-to-be-released sports snapshots, there has been an incredible growth in the under 5 population, not in all the wards that we expect. And we have no coordinated system of data collection for this age group. One metric that is particularly interesting for us is the QRIS system for childcare. Similar to a rating system, it probably designates the quality ratings associated by early childhood or school age programs, many of which receive public funding, are responsible for providing care for hundreds of children each year. Prioritizing this program will enable us as policymakers and other stakeholders to be really informed and ultimately, hopefully, focus on the quality, not just number, but quality of seats. And I go in detail about how to implement and how to strengthen the current system, which is the Going for the Gold program. While we encourage OSSI to make critical improvements of this data product, one of the things that we do want to stress is the need for OSSI to improve the dated paper system in which data is collected for childcare and have a more systemized way of creating this baseline of data. For a quality rating system to work properly, we really need to have more timely, more accurate data, and we continue to use this paper-based system that is not regularly updated. Finally, we want to share some of the challenges that we've had with collecting data. OSSI's responsiveness really has varied depending on the department, and we highlight a couple of the examples. Our requests around early care and education in the city, which has started to compile a very robust child care profile for Kids County has been very challenging. We are impressed with the new data manager, and we hope that in the year to come that the request for data is improved and streamlined. And we're very excited about that partnership. But request for the Wellness and Nutrition Office has been filled promptly, and some of the very important data around enrollment and test scores have been extremely challenging. DCS CAS scores are available to the public online, but this information can be incomplete and takes considerable time to compile the data in a format that we can analyze and share and inform public policy. Obtaining audited enrollment data broken down by each grade by each year for both DCPS and public charter school has been a challenge and continues to be a challenge. We have to get this right. In summary, we believe that OSCE has led the district towards a more comprehensive approach to early education. We believe the QRIS system is a critical part of laying the foundation of data needed to make strategic decisions in the future. We need to prioritize and implement QRIS and focus on data collection so that we can focus on the quality of seats and care for children, which should be the bottom line. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we hope to have or address additional questions you may have. Thank you.
No, thank you. Let me thank all of you for your testimony. We've been joined by the Ward 4 Councilwoman, Councilmember Bowser. I want to give her an opportunity to have any opening statements before we go to questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all the witnesses for coming down to testify. I did have the opportunity to hear the last two witnesses, and I have the written testimony for each of you that I look forward to looking over. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for pulling together this hearing as well as the hearing with the government witnesses next week, which I look forward to participating with as well. Certainly, we on the council set out in 2007 and every year since in making sure we're making meaningful transformations to our public education system. We have now a deputy mayor for education whose vision I am very interested in hearing, and very interested in hearing how he lays it out for the students of the District of Columbia, but most especially what his vision is for making sure that all district school students have quality seats, as he points out, and how those who he has deemed not to have quality seats or quality facilities will have them. And if they don't have them, his vision for where those children are to go to school. So those will be very specific questions that I have for the deputy mayor. And I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, if that will be the opportunity for him to present his IFF study, or if we will have other opportunities to hear from him on that at the council. But I think it's very important that we understand very clearly what his motive is and what the results of that study will mean for children in the district's schools. I'm also very pleased, Mr. Chairman, that all of the officials that have something to do with public education in our schools will be here all at once. So we'll hear from the deputy mayor, we'll hear from the public charter school board and DC Public Schools, and also the state superintendent of education. And the other officials that really help us manage what we do, and I'm pleased to see Board Member Trayon White, and I want to thank you for your representation. But our state board is also very critical in how we shape policies for our children. So I just wanted to be here to make sure that everybody knew that we're following these issues very closely, especially the deputy mayor's office, to see what his motives are and what his plan is to make sure that all children have quality seats. And I wanted to take one moment to acknowledge the very robust efforts of our board member, Camille Anderson, who has, with the Roosevelt and Coolidge communities, been very instrumental in making sure that the children of Ward 4, and I know you share my concern, Mr. Chairman, have access to quality high school seats. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you, Councilman Bowser. Let me thank you, too, for all of your work you've done in terms of education, not just in Ward 4, but looking throughout the entire educational process. To Representative White, thank you for your testimony. Where do you mentioned here that there are 32 students to one teacher. Where is that? Which school is that?
That's happening. That's happening in Ballou Senior High School, which has the second highest population behind Wilson. There's some classes that got up to 40 teachers per classroom.
40 students per class.
I'm sorry, yeah, 40 students per teacher.
Okay. Also, you mentioned Hart Middle School here in terms of the students being transferred to a particular Hart, and you do know the chancellor just rolled out a new pilot program that includes Hart and Hardy Middle School, in which they will be focusing on a pilot program to strengthen that middle school right in Ward 8. We'll get you some information about it, but I think that just shows the example of strengthening middle schools in Ward 8 altogether, and quite frankly Hardy, to really see how we make sure that our parents have options and our students have options. I keep saying parents because you mentioned something in your testimony that I believe in, that you're right. Parents have to be accountable. And you hear it in the community just like I hear it in the community. When you have parents who are trying to get other parents to get involved and be accountable. We can't hold the teacher and principal accountable if the student's not sitting in the seat. Mm-hmm. Right? They can't teach if the student's not there. I mean, the student has to be there. So the question is, how do we create an atmosphere in which the expectations from everyone is taken to another level? So thank you for yours, and we'll follow with you on the Turner issue. We will be following with you on that. Ms. Chung, thank you for your testimony. You mentioned a couple things that we will definitely follow up with, and that is the QRIS system. Clearly, we have a great system, but it's not so great if the data is not good, right? And not easy accessible to folks to be able to utilize. Ms. Sandalow, thank you for your testimony again. Thank you for pointing out some of the improvements that have been made, but also challenging us. And I have a question for you. Have you seen any improvement? I know we're bringing more students back. I think the administration has done a great job trying to attract students out-of-state tuitions and bring them back inside of DCPS or the charter school system. And have you seen any improvements within the schools themselves to handle the students that we're actually bringing back?
It's very inconsistent. So we're seeing better success in the elementary schools than we are in the middle schools or the high schools. There's clearly been a focus on building those programs. And then it depends across the schools. Cleveland is doing a terrific job. There are other schools that aren't. So there's clearly a need to invest some of that money into building those programs. There's a long way to go.
And we'll follow up on that. Also, what schools did not have were not wheelchair accessible? My understanding is they tell me that every school is wheelchair accessible. So I want to know what
I can promise you that's not true, Mr. Brown. We have had in the past 4 years at least four different students who were literally excluded totally from school because of a lack of wheelchair accessibility that required litigation to get them back in school. So there's an ongoing problem with the lack of wheelchair accessibility, but I can get you more specific information.
Well, I'm working on a piece around wheelchair accessible cabs because, we don't have a cab in the District of Columbia that you can go out and catch, right? You only have 20 in the whole city, so this is a big issue for me. I want to follow up on that to find out because clearly people shouldn't be denied because they can't get into a building.
Absolutely. We will follow up with your staff. Thank you.
We spent a lot of money on school modernization, and I think that, modernizing school means it should be wheelchair accessible. And I'm pretty sure that the majority of the ones that are modernized should be modernized to be. We'll follow up. You've got my antenna up on this one. And Mr. Rosen, thank you. As you know, our mayor is, a strong advocate of those with disabilities.